Hey everyone, this is the Disjunct Diary, and this episode is for November 6, 2019. Alright, so this is the second episode, and I'm trying to make it a little bit more focused. I wrote down a lot of the suggestions that people gave, and I don't know if I'm going to do it in order from how I wrote it. It's kind of all jumbled all over the place, but I'll try to tackle down the stuff that I think is, I don't know, the most interesting to talk about. Um, so, I guess a lot of the questions that I got were having to do with the new Xasthur album that we've been working on. And, people asked me if, we were going into the studio to do it, into a studio to do it. And no, we had a plan to do that. We had a plan to do that last year, last October in 2018, and it didn't end up working out. I'm not exactly sure how it went down. I don't really have contact myself with the record label. It's more of a thing that Scott does with them, The only time I've ever had any direct contact with them is when we've run into them at a show that we've played, and they show up and stuff like that. And it's never really a business thing. I just kind of, I prefer to stick to the background with that whole thing, just because I don't really know anything about how they're trying to, run that type of program with us. But yeah. The whole studio thing kind of fell through. So this year, I've been out here in North Dakota. Scott's been out in Colorado, and Joe, he's over in Salt Lake City. And I've been trying to kind of initiate the recording, doing it here at my house. I'm planning, on doing all the guitar stuff, my guitar stuff. I came up with some alternate things, I came up with some alternate parts for the songs. Scott, is gonna lay down his stuff. I'm gonna send him CDs or something like that over through the mail. He'll get them, and he has his old, Tascam 8-track thing still. And that's where he'll do all his guitar stuff, and, we'll just be bouncing it back and forth like that, just sending it to each other through the mail. I'm also going to be doing the bass, and the singing too, of course, and yeah, it's just going to have to be done piecemeal like this, just because we can't all get together to do it, He's got his own thing going on out there. I have my thing here. I can't really take that much time off of work to be able to do it, so hopefully we'll be able to get centered again, into one one city. I don't really know how this, is gonna pan out as far as us being able to do that, but we'll do what we can for now, Another thing, that was kind of asked is how the writing process works for this type of thing. This band is, Scott's, first and foremost and everything like that. And, he does all, the main writing. He'll write all the guitar parts. He'll write the lyrics and stuff like that. When he sends me the lyrics, though, what I do is, I put them to the song. I usually get to choose, where, which lyrics will be able to go into what instrumental track that he's come up with. And sorry. He'll let me choose, which lyrics will get put into what song. And when that happens, the lyrics sometimes, they won't completely fit perfectly within the song, so I'll go back and edit them and stuff like that. I won't change the meaning of anything that he's saying, but sometimes I'll have to take out a word, add some words, change some words to something else or something like that, here and there, just to be able to make them fit better. And, I come up with the melody lines to sing and stuff like that. on the song. And as far as like the bass parts go, it's been kind of, divided up in a funny kind of way. There was a time, maybe a couple years ago when Scott and I were both living together out in LA, and we were, just working on this music stuff every single day together. And when we were doing that, we were coming up with the bass parts for it. Like we'd like, be like, okay, this song now, do you got an idea? No, I got an idea. I'll come up with it. I don't have an idea for this one. You could go ahead and come up with it. And we would kind of just do it at random, like if whoever had the idea basically would make the bass parts for it. Right now, we have a bunch of old songs that I don't have. We would record videos so that Rachel, when she was in the band at the time, she'd be able to learn it and everything. And, I don't have access to those videos, and to go back and learn everything like that, it just seems too time consuming. So as I'm recording the bass parts here, I'm just coming up with whatever I can remember that was played. I'll do something as close to that as I can, and whatever I don't remember, I'm just coming up with some new shit just to, speed it up a little bit. I think it's going okay doing that. And there's a lot of them too, like some of the newest batch that we played on the last tour that we did with Author and Punisher and Wear Your Wounds that, they don't have any bass parts to them. So I get to just kind of come up with some of my own stuff to go along with it. And, oh man, it's a lot of songs. And playing bass this much, it's actually kind of helped me become much better at playing bass, actually. I can play with my fingers on the bass a lot better than when I first started, I'm not really like a real like bass player and stuff, but it's fun, it's really fun to me to be able to come up with some like catchy kind of like bass lines. Damn, my fucking voice. Sorry if this sounds a little bit rough. My voice has been kind of weird today. I'm gonna make sure to carry on though. Let me take a look. I dropped my notebook a little while ago. Oh yeah. I did get asked if it was going to be put out through Prophecy still. It is, as far as I know. Yeah, we still got, like the deal thing going on with them. There's supposed to be some reissues too. I'm not really sure what's going on with that part of it either. But it's like I'm just focusing on the new stuff myself. But yeah, it's supposed to be coming out through them. I can't give any specific timeline of when it's all supposed to be done, We still have a lot of work to do on this recording stuff. I'm not really sure how many songs we're going to be putting out, but, I guess we'll see. Maybe, depending on the timing of it, maybe once that gets announced, I can talk about it on here. I probably won't know anything concrete until much further on down the line, though. But yeah, it's a lot of stuff that's kind of out of our hands for now when it comes to that aspect of it. Before, when we put out Subject to Change and all the other Nocturnal Poisoning stuff, like we were kind of doing it alone, just no other record label really involved. I guess The End put out Doomgrass, but that was not good. That didn't turn out very well for either them or for us, I don't want to get too detailed with it, but I feel like, the way that it was put out, it kind of ended up killing the momentum that Nocturnal Poisoning project, kind of had. And, it just, it just got things kind of at a rocky place. And, I mean, that's kind of a big reason as to why the name got changed back to Xasthur. There's other reasons too, Scott mentioned that, it should have never really been changed to begin with. And honestly, I kind of agree, I mean, what all of this stems from is just his, it's all his writing. He's written all the music from back in, the fucking like 90s and stuff like that, when he was doing his demos, all the way up until now. It's been his vision, really. And, just because it's a different style, I mean, I think at its core, it remains pretty much intact as to, like, just like the fucked up sounding chords and stuff like that, and just like the disharmonious kind of, riffs and stuff like that he makes. It's still very much at its core what the black metal stuff was as well. Just, it's not distorted. And on top of that, I guess, the lyrics are different, but, they come from stuff that he's, seen, and that some of it, that he's went through as well. So, yeah. Oh, and, just to kind of throw it out there too, the Shit Creek lyrics, it's not really a reflection of him. He didn't write that about himself. He didn't write that about us as a band. It's about a lot of the people that we've seen, around LA and stuff like that. There's a huge homeless problem in LA, and, just a lot of people that can't find homes out there, and, everybody's at varying levels. It's not like they're all like drug addicts or anything like that. That's not fair, to say, about those people. Everybody, just comes from different walks of life, unfortunate situations, a lot of it, and, but we have ran into, that person before. And it's sad, I really feel for them and stuff, and it just sucks, man. When we lived in LA, we lived at the beach, and sometimes we'd go over to Venice Beach and stuff like that, and, we'd see a lot of people, and it sucks, and it also sucks to know that it's there's just so many people that don't have homes, and that, it's like you can't help them all. And it's the same thing too, in Alhambra. We saw the same people out there every single day, and, it's like your hands are tied almost, because, that place was so expensive too, that it was fucking, like, we could barely survive, at that time, really. But, anyway, now that I'm done bumming you guys out, I could get to some more of the points here. Somebody asked if, there were any, like, interesting stories, like band stories and stuff like that. It's difficult, to just kind of like pull one out, just really quick, when, I mean, I've been, I've known Scott for maybe about 6 years, but I've been in the band for about 5 now, a little over 5. So, we've been through a lot of stuff, definitely. It's been quite a, a ride, going through ups and downs and stuff. And I'm not really sure, like, just due to his privacy also, how much of it I can get into. So, this will probably just be mostly based on my perspective. I have a lot of good memories, when I first started practicing with him. I think, it was like 2014. I was, just out of high school, barely going into college. And I'd been talking to Scott for a while, and offering help about, like, I wanted to be in the band, in Nocturnal Poisoning. And, like, I showed him throughout the last months before actually meeting up with him for the first time that I could play these songs. People ask, how I first, got in contact with him, and, I just sent him a message through Facebook. And he responded, that same night. He probably responded within the same hour that I had sent him the message. I didn't really think that he really ever replied, And, when he did, that was like one of the first things that I did, and honestly, I feel like he didn't really believe me at first, he's probably been used to people kind of, offering some kind of help and they're not really going through with it. But, I was serious. I didn't know how to do any finger picking stuff back then. I didn't even own an acoustic guitar. But, like I tried, like I borrowed one of my friend's acoustic guitars and just through that summer, I just, learned the best that I could how to do it just on my own. Watching, videos of other people doing it and just kind of going off of that. And, I learned some of the stuff off of that Other Worlds of the Mind album by ear. And, I would record it, short clips of it, and then I would send it over to him. And it seemed to, like show him, like, hey, like this guy, like, he's serious about wanting to help out, wanting to be in the band. So one day, he asked me if I'd be down to go over there. So I jumped on the chance, and, my dad drove me out to Alhambra from my parents' house, in Fontana. And, this is the house that was on that documentary or whatever. And, I really miss that place. Scott doesn't live there anymore. I'm not going to go into details about how that happened, but, like, it was, he'd been living there for a long time. It was his grandfather's house and stuff, and, it was just such a cool place. It wasn't the best kept place, I mean, Scott tried, to, like, make it look as best as it could, but, it was just, the house was over 100 years old, It's considered a historical monument at this point, like real shit, And, that's the house where he recorded all of his albums from, up until Subject to Change. He was able to do the instrumentals to that album in that house just before he left. And damn, man, I miss it. That area in the kitchen where he had that drum set in that documentary. He didn't have the drum kit anymore when I got there. He had long since sold it, because that documentary was shot like in 2010 or something, 2009 maybe even. And, 4 years later or something like that, he had already switched to the acoustic stuff a long time ago before that. So when I got there, he didn't have a whole lot of instruments like he did at that time. And, some, like, I would stay there over the weekend. So Scott found this small, like, leather sofa thing, and he put it in that little, like, space in the kitchen, and I would sleep there, like, he had his room, and then I, just across the hall was the kitchen, and I would sleep in there. And, we would just fucking practice our asses off every single day. I'd get there, Because at that time I also worked. I worked with my dad at a factory. And on Saturdays he would take me to Scott's house. So it would be maybe like noon, 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I'd get there. We'd just start playing. And, I would, like, we would just play, maybe have like an eating break in between, but we would play until like 8 or 9 in the morning. Like, the sun would be coming up, but we wouldn't even know. Just because, like, Scott had his windows blacked out in the whole house. So every single time we stepped out, it was like coming out of a cave, like it was dark in there. There were lights and stuff like that, but it was pretty dark. It always looked like it was nighttime in there. And then you like step out into like 5 o'clock in the afternoon or some shit like that, and it's like 100 degrees outside, and it's just like, damn, like, wow, like, time is really strange in that house. But it was so comforting, to have a place like that to be able to go to, where you can just kind of like escape and just focus on the thing that you love to do. Things have been really difficult, since then. Yeah, we got to play a lot and to work on the band stuff a lot. After that, when we just kind of like found, like a place to be able to like live, and work on it every single day. But, that place, man, I feel like that's where we really ended up like clicking, musically, and just being on the same page. I don't know if we tour, or if he's nearby, someday I can maybe get him on here, and then we can both talk about this a little bit more. I don't feel comfortable going too into it, again, just because of I don't know what he wants to put out there. But I'll see what happens, And I want to get Daniel from Winterfod on here too. I asked him, and he seems to be down to do it. I just, I'm not really sure how to do it remotely, though, because, he lives in Nova Scotia, several hundreds, maybe even over 1,000 miles away from here. So, I have to look more into that, but I want to get him to, talk about his project too and stuff like that, But anyway, fuck, it's crazy, I feel like I blinked and like a whole bunch of time has already passed, I have a bunch of other bullet points, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to talk about everything this time around, but, I'm going to keep on trying to like, if I don't get through everything here, I'll save it for next time, and yeah, like I really appreciated people giving suggestions, because I feel like now I don't have to just, wait here in silence until I can find something to talk about. So, let's see. So I guess I'll talk about a couple more things. I could talk about my solo album. At the same time that I've been working on this album for the band, I've been working on my own solo stuff. I have a lot of, songs, and if not full songs, I have a lot of pieces of stuff that I've written throughout the years that I haven't really put in a lot of time, to record and to flesh out into real things. And I've been doing that a lot, this year. So I don't really have a set time for when I can put this out. As far as my solo stuff goes, I'm doing it all by myself. I don't have a label helping me out with that type of thing. Honestly, I'm not really looking for that anyway. I'd prefer to keep this to myself for a while, just doing it all myself. And it's going to be called Fontana. I want to start off with kind of, giving an introduction to myself and to where I came from, you know. Um, I have a lot to talk about on that album, you know, and I don't want to give away too much of it right now, just from talking about it. But it's like I want to be able to use that album to, give some people that I also grew up with, like a voice, so that people across the country can kind of get a glimpse of what it's like to be from there. Um, I also want to use this album to say, you know, thank you, and I'm sorry to one of my friends, that passed away. Um, maybe like a year and a half ago. You know, my friend Enrique. I grew up with him. And I had known him for many years and stuff like that. Since high school. He was one of my first friends that I made in high school. And I've been pretty fucked up over it, ever since he passed away. He passed away February of 2018, and I think about him every single day. Not one day goes by where I don't think about him. And I just wish I would have been able to keep in contact more those last couple years. Sorry, I think I did that too close to the mic. But this is kind of a reason why I don't want to talk about it too much. Like, I want people to get a better thought out, way of how I want to express it. I'm not a great talker, so I've been giving a lot of thought into the lyrics, and I really do have a lot to say. So much so that I've been trying to like hold back a little bit at the same time, just because I feel like it's getting a little bit too wordy in some parts, But yeah, the music stuff though, I've been writing it kind of like piece by piece. I'll get like the main idea, the rough draft, I guess, like record it down, and then I'm just adding stuff on top of it, as I go along. The bass stuff kind of comes pretty naturally, like I can write the whole thing, like within the hour. But everything else, lyrics are tough, If I add any other riffs to it, that's the tough part for me. So, I'm thinking, maybe early next year sometime, I want to put it out before I go back to Fontana, Um, I want that whole album to also encapsulate this time frame that I've been in, like since my friend has died, of coming over here, to live in North Dakota, to show, like the things that I've learned since then. I've done a lot of growing up, within the past couple years, and I want to be able to express that. But let's see. I guess the last thing that I'll talk about is, maybe this will be a little bit easier or a little bit more lighthearted. I don't want to leave off on such a, I don't know if it's negative or just a serious note. So I'll talk about how I got into playing and into music and stuff. Because it was kind of like some years in the making, in a way. So when I was a kid, I grew up in a whole bunch of different areas. I was born in LA, more specifically Inglewood, California, and when I was a kid, I moved out to Mexico for a couple years, Some of the earliest memories that I have is, I had like this little cassette player, and my dad had like a few of them, a few cassettes there, and I would play them over and over and over again. I was just entranced by it. Fuck. It was like, there was this one song, and I'm pretty sure if you look it up, you're not gonna really think it's anything that great, maybe kind of shitty, but I still love it. I still look it up sometimes and listen to it, just because it's so nostalgic for myself. It's this song, I think the artist is Dr. Alban, Alban, and it's called like, It's My Life, parentheses, Pum Pum Remix, Pum Remix, and it's like this like reggae dance track thing from like the 90s, and I love it. There's a bass line that happens on it that I still think about all the time to this day, like pretty much like 20 years later, I still think about it. But, on top of that, my mom was into a lot of, rock in Spanish and stuff like that. So, I grew up listening to Caifanes, Enanitos Verdes, Rata Blanca, Maldita Vecindad, bands like that. And I still love those bands to this day as well. But, like, after that, I moved back over here. I didn't move to LA. I moved to Rialto, California, which is right next to Fontana. And, I lived there for maybe a couple years also. And by the time I was like around 7 or 8, we moved to Fontana. And my cousins went over for the summertime, I think it was, because I think they were still in high school. My cousin Hector and my cousin Francisco, which, we call him Pancho. And they were into punk music. So they brought a bunch of burnt CDs and stuff. One of them, I still have it somewhere at my parents' house. I need to find it and keep it forever. And that, it was funny. Like, my dad didn't like that music very much. And I was like, pretending like, oh yeah, like I'm just like my dad, because I was still, little and stuff like that. And, when you're little, you want to be just like your dad. I mean, I still do. I love my dad. But, it's like, I was like playing it off like, oh yeah, what is that stuff? I don't even like that stuff at all. And then like when everybody would turn around, I would be like, fuck yeah. Like that music is fucking awesome. And it was like, because of that time period, I have a soft spot for punk music, and I love a lot of it. Subhumans from the UK are like my favorite punk group because of that time. Vice Squad, Misfits. I like Misfits. Danzig era mostly. What else? Crass, Devotchkas. Just stuff like that. There's others, but I can't think of them off the top of my head right now. But like, that stuff was just so cool. And, after they left, I couldn't find that CD for a while, so I forgot about it. But, a few years later, I was 10 years old. I had an Xbox, an original Xbox, which I still have and play. And it was my birthday, and my parents, took me to GameStop, and I got some games. And one of them was Tony Hawk's Underground. And, yes, these are the bands, some of, like, the soundtrack had some bands from those CDs that I remembered. The Addicts, Viva La Revolution. That song, like, when it played again on that video game soundtrack, I remembered, I was like, oh, damn, like, I remember this song. My cousins would play it all the time. So I really started liking that game, and I played the hell out of that game. I got really good at that game, and I memorized a lot of the songs on there. But there was also a lot of Kiss songs on there, and when I heard it, and there was heavy emphasis on that band. Like they had clips of it on the game of them playing. I remember, and Orange Goblin was on that game too. Others I can't think of off the top of my head again, but there was a lot of cool stuff on there, and after I saw Kiss playing, I got really into them. Went out and got a CD of theirs. Got a Kissology Volume 2 of theirs. Got into AC/DC. Bought a ton of their albums. I have a lot of AC/DC albums. And, I was like, you know what? I want to start playing music. So the first guitar that I ever got was a black SG to resemble Angus Young's. And, from then on, 11 years old, I've been playing music ever since. And I can't think of when I'm going to actually fucking stop doing it because I just, like, that's not even an option, I love playing. And this is just something I want to keep doing, I don't know if I'll ever get recognized from doing this music thing, on a wide scale. But what I do know is that I don't believe that I'm going to stop playing, for the rest of my life. I love doing it. I love creating, and I love learning about it. I learn something new every day with the music stuff. And I don't think I'll ever stop learning. But, yeah, that's how I got into music. I mean, there's so much other stuff, that I wrote down that I'm not going to be able to cover this time around. But, I'll try to do it next time. And if you guys have any other suggestions on what to talk about, I'm down, Hopefully my voice will be a little bit better next time. It's been pretty rough this whole time, and if you guys have actually listened through this longer version of the podcast thing now, I really appreciate it, because, I think it's been pretty rough. Fucking, my voice going in and out like a broken, saxophone reed or some shit. But yeah, thank you guys, really. I appreciate everybody that listens to my music and anybody listening to this. I really mean that. Thank you.